Sanku, the Blockhead. Once there was a very poor man named Sanku. He lived in a small hut that stood on the suburbs of a remote village. In his house, there was no any other human being. He alone lived there happily, looking after his cows. He was very much fond of cattle, and so he had brought up a lot of them. He had even given names to each of them. Whatever he had in life, he was a real fool. One day, one of his cows was missing. It was the most beautiful cow he had. He could not tolerate the loss of his dearest cow. He set out in search of his cow. Throughout the way, he was calling his cow by its name. While walking, he saw a house on fire. The owner was standing near the house in deep melancholy. People who gathered around were trying to put out the fire, pouring water over the house. Sanku neared the owner and said, "Oh, what a horrible sight it is! How was it caught fire? Were you using plenty of logwoods in the oven? I think it might be the reason." "Is it so?" The people who were striving hard to extinguish the fire turned their heads towards Sanku and indignantly said, "It is not the time to ask questions. Go and fetch some water to put out the fire." Sanku obeyed as they wanted, and at last the fire was completely extinguished, and most of the articles were saved from the burning off. Sanku moved away from that burned house and continued his search. Then he reached a place where their potters lived. He saw a potter baking his earthen pots, placing them about a furnace. The fire was flaming vehemently over the pots. Seeing the fire flaming high over the pots, Sanku ran to a nearest house and brought some water from there. Then he sprinkled the water over the furnace. The fire was extinguished, and Sanku looked at the potter with an expression of a philanthropist. The potter was very angry with Sanku, and he retorted scornfully, "What the hell have you done to my pots?" "You spoiled my work," Sanku said. "I was actually helping you by putting out the fire from causing for more troubles." The potter said, "Here you should take the pots my hand and cut mildly on them to ascertain whether they were perfect." Sanku said, worried to the potter, and continued his work in search of his cow. As soon as Sanku entered the city, he saw a completely bald-headed foreigner walking against. He was very much amused on seeing the varnished like bald head of the foreigner. When the foreigner neared, Sanku caught his head by his hands and thudded on it mildly, then said, "What a fine bald head you have! What is the price of this head?" The foreigner looked at him contemptuously and did the same knocks in return. But they were not gentle. The foolish man studied a lesson.